Abdul El Sayed. Can you believe this? This could only happen to me. Abdul El Sayed, lovely gentleman. He's a man of hate. And now he's going around saying, no, I love everybody. He doesn't love everybody. Put him in office. You're going to find out what he loves. He doesn't love Israel. He doesn't love Jewish people. He hates them. He hates them with a passion that burns in his heart, and there's not a frickin' thing he can do about it. There's not a thing he can do about it because he hates them. When I watch Abdul, he's full of shit. So, if you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country. And I was right. What I didn't say is what they're trying to do, they want to skip socialism. They want to go right down to the bottom of the barrel. That's communism. They want it to be a communist country. We're not letting them have it as a communist country, not even for a minute.
There is a new political battle unfolding in America, and this time the name at the center of the storm is not Donald Trump. It is Abdulrahman El Sayed, a doctor, a public health expert, the son of an Egyptian immigrant, a progressive Democrat, and now, after defeating establishment-backed Democrats Haley Stevens in Michigan Democratic Senate primaries, the man who is one election away from making U.S. political history. If Abdulrahman El Sayed wins in November, he will become the first Muslim senator in United States history. And that is precisely why this election has suddenly become more bigger than one Senate seat in Michigan, right? President Trump has already attacked El Sayed publicly, calling him a communist and accusing him of hating Israel and Jewish people. El Sayed rejected this accusation. So what exactly is going on, and who is Abdul El Sayed? How did a public health doctor who once lost a race for governor become one of the most talked about progressive politicians in America? And perhaps the biggest question is, what does his emergence tell us about the future of Muslim participation in American politics? Because this story isn't about one man, it's about changing America. You're welcome back to Global Information, where we share daily information about the world. Today, we are looking at one of the most interesting political developments in the US in this 2026. Abdul El Sayed has gone from being relatively unknown outside Michigan political circles to becoming the Democratic nominee for the US Senate seat. And he did not get there by presenting himself as a traditional established Democrat. His campaign has been built around a very different message: universal health care, economic inequality, opposition to big money influence in politics, and a major change to immigration enforcement, and a fundamental reassessment of America's relationship with Israel. Those positions have made him extremely popular with progressive voters, but they have also made him extremely controversial among conservatives, moderate Democrats, and some pro Israeli groups. And then there is the fact that he is a Muslim. That fact has become impossible to separate from the political conversation surrounding him. But we need to be careful here. Being a Muslim does not automatically tell us who and what a politician believes. America has millions of Muslim citizens with different political views. Some are conservative, some are liberals, some support Israel, some strongly oppose Israeli government policies, and some are Republican while some are Democrats, and many simply care about the same everyday issue other Americans care about: job, housing, healthcare, education, crime, and the economy. So the real question is not, should Americans be afraid because a Muslim is entering politics? The real question is, what does Abdul El Sayed actually believe, and why has his political rise triggered such a strong reaction? Let's go back to the beginning. Now, I want to talk about Abdul El Sayed. Who is he? Abdul El Sahid was born in Michigan in 1984 and grew up in the Detroit area. His parents were Egyptian immigrants, and his background is important because it tells something about the American story he represents. He wasn't born overseas and then brought into American politics. He was born in America, schooled in Michigan, attended University of Michigan, and became a Rhodes Scholar and studied at Oxford. He later earned his medical degree from Columbia University and developed a career in epidemiology and public health. This is not the traditional biography of a career politician. He was a scientist and public health expert before he became a political candidate. And that distinction matters. Before running for office, El Sahid became Detroit's health officer and executive director of the Detroit Health Department. He was only about 30 years old then when he took the position, making him one of the youngest people to lead the major American city health department. During his time, he worked on issues including exposure, infant mortality, environmental health, and rebuilding Detroit's public health infrastructure. So politics wasn't his first career, public health was. But something happened that pushed him deeper into politics. The Flint water crisis. How he entered politics. Let's talk about it. The Flint water crisis became one of the defining political scandals in Michigan. Thousands of children were exposed to lead after the city water system was switched to the Flint River without adequate corrosion control. For El Sahid, the crisis represented something much bigger. He demonstrated in his view what happens when government decisions prioritizes budget and political calculations over ordinary people. That experience helped push him towards electoral politics. And in 2017, he left his position as Detroit's health director and announced that he will be running for governor of Michigan. And this was where many Americans first heard his name. But he was not running as a conventional Democrat. He was openly progressive. He supported policies associated with the emerging Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party. He wanted universal health care. He attacked corporate influence. He talked extensively about inequality and he presented himself as the outsider challenging the political establishment. And in 2018, campaign attracted national attention. Bernie Sanders supported him. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez also campaigned with him. But there was one problem. Michigan Democrats ultimately chose Gretchen Whitmer. El Sahid lost Democratic primary. For many politicians, that might have been the end, but it wasn't the end for him. He continued working in public health and remained politically active, and several years later, he returned to electoral politics. This time, he was running for governor, he was running for the United States Senate, and this is why his 2026 Senate campaign is different. This is where the story becomes much more serious. Michigan has an open Senate seat because Senator Gary Peter is retiring. That means Democrats and Republicans both see this as an extremely important race, and Michigan itself is politically complicated. It is not simply a deep blue Democratic state. Donald Trump has won Michigan twice. At the same time, Michigan has one of the country's largest Arab Americans and Muslim populations. That created an unusual political environment. El Sahid understood that. His campaign tried to combine progressive economic policies with issues particularly important to Michigan's Arab American and Muslim communities. He campaigned for Medicare for all. He has supported abolishing IC. He has advocated higher taxes on billionaires, and perhaps most controversially, he has strongly opposed U.S. military aid to Israel and described Israel's action in Gaza in extreme severe terms. Those positions have made him extremely popular amongst some progressive and Muslim voters, but they have also created enormous opposition, and this brings us to Donald Trump. Why is Donald Trump attacking El Sahid? After El Sahid won the Democratic primary, President Trump wasted little time attacking him. Trump described El Sahid as a communist and accused him of hating Israel and Jewish people. That is a serious accusation, but there is an important distinction. Criticism of the Israeli government is not automatically hatred of Jewish people. At the same time, accusations of anti-Semitism should not simply be dismissed because the person being accused is critical of Israel. The real question is what exactly has the politician said and done? That is a debate Americans are going to have throughout this campaign. El Sahid states he is communicated to Jewish safety, he's committed to Jewish safety and opposing anti-Semitism. His critics pointed to his aggressive criticism of Israel, his political associations, and some controversial statements as evidence that they believe his worldview goes too far. There are also questions about the previous positions and associations that his opponents are likely to make central to the general election. So this isn't simply a Republican versus Muslim argument. There is a much bigger ideological conflict